All right, welcome back to the Green Zone. This is episode 37 of week 5 of the 2020 NFL season. We're just going to roll through this quickly, guys. We will do our head-to-head pick'ems, which we have had a massive winning percentage on. Week 1, we went 13-2. Last week, we went 11-3. Skipped weeks 2 and 3. For personal issues, we're back here to do it again. We'll then slip into our betting segment and then finish off with our daily fantasy advice. So, without further ado, let's kick it off. All right, first up, we have our head-to-head pick'ems. We got the Jaguars and the Texans, guys. This is a game in which both teams really need a W. I personally think the Texans have had a tougher schedule. The firing of head coach last week, Bill O'Brien, was a good move, a step in the right direction, as the guy's been a mediocre coach his entire career. Never quite understood why he maintained his job as long as he did, and he's been with so many different franchises for so long. I don't understand his appeal. However, he's done, he's gone. X-nay on the O'Brien A. We are moving on in Houston, eh? What I'm thinking here is that the Jaguars are actually worse than the Houston Texans, but I think they're going to win this game. I have here on my cheat sheet that the Texans are going to win it straight up, but then we're going to come back, we're going to bet on the Jaguars. Tells me, bottom line, this is going to be a close game between two teams that very much need a win, as mentioned before. So, I'm going to say that Gardner Minshew will make a last-minute adjustment here because that's what I do. I'm able to scramble as well. The Jaguars beat the Texans. Pick on the Texans defense there, which is not to be spoken of as they don't have much of one. And they do their thing. Gardner Minshew and DJ Chark has returned. They connect for a couple of touchdowns, at least one, and the Jaguars beat the Texans. Next up, we got the Bengals at the Ravens, guys. I don't really need to talk about this much. I know it's a divisional game, but the Ravens will beat the Bengals. We all know that. Next, Panthers. Oh, congratulations to the Bengals for winning last week. Your victories will be few and far between until Joe Burrows figures everything out. He's on his way, though, so you guys have something to look forward there. Next, we got the Panthers and the Falcons, a game that nobody cares about outside the fans of these two teams. It is a divisional matchup. Not much defense being played on either side here by either team. So I do expect actually some points to be scored in this one. I'm going to say the Falcons win. They're only favored by a couple of points, so it's not exactly like they're huge favorites. Teddy Bridgewater and the Panthers could win this game. I don't like to bet on the Panthers at all, though, so we're going to say Falcons win this one straight up. Next, we got the Raiders at the Chiefs, guys. That's another one that I think is a no-brainer. Divisional matchup. We're going to get into divisional matchups. A lot of uneven matches this week. To me, personally, unless there are a lot of huge upsets, these pick'ems are pretty easy. So Chiefs beat the Raiders, no problem. Cardinals at Jets. Cardinals. You got the NFC best going against the NFC least. Cardinals are the worst team in the NFC best. If you minus the Niners, they have the same record, and they beat the Niners. And then the Jets. They're in the NFC least. They don't have any weapons. They're not very good. They haven't been good for a while. A lot of problems there. Go ahead and mark that as a loss for them. Next, we got the Eagles and the Steelers, guys. The Eagles got lucky last week. They faced basically the third-string team of the 49ers. Their defense played well, though. You got to give them credit there. Niners played like crap. Nicky Mullins, you are off the starting job. Jimmy G is back. We're not talking about the Niners, though. Let's get back into the Eagles and the Steelers. Steelers have a good defense. They've reassembled their offense there, getting Big Ben back. So the Steelers beat the Eagles. No problems there. Next, Rams, Washington football team. The Rams are a much better team than the Washington football team. This one may be closer than you think, though, as the Rams are one of those teams that kind of just seem to be rolling. You start to think, man, Super Bowl aspirations, definitely playoff type team. And then they just have a funky game where they go across to the East Coast and they don't play very well. This is one of those games, in my opinion. Watch for the Washington football team to possibly upset here, but definitely keep this game closer than people think. Dolphins at 49ers, guys. The 49ers, I actually think, are going to win this game. I know that they just lost to the Eagles last week, and I was down on them myself. They're my boys. I stay with them, and I ride or die. But the problem is they've got too many injured players. That defense is, a spirit of itself. It died with the first string died a long time ago with Nicky Bosa and Solomon Thomas in week 2. They lost Buckner this last year. They brought in Kinlaw. Kinlaw's playing fine for a rookie, but he's not a DeForest Buckner. They've lost Richard Sherman. They've lost Greenlaw. They're losing a lot of guys. We're going to see if they can keep it afloat, though, as they do get Jimmy G back. They have George Kittle back. They've got Deebo Samuel back. Raheem Mostert's still out, but Jerick McKinnon can do his thing every now and again. The guy's top speed for a small, quick guy is terrible, but at least he can move laterally pretty well. We're going to say the 49ers beat the Dolphins, though. A little Fitzmagic in this one. This is going to be higher scoring than people think, as the Niners game plan their way to a victory through the genius of Kyle Shanahan. He will get this done. Next, Giants at Cowboys, guys. Another divisional game. This one between two NFC least opponents, or division members. The Cowboys, they can score at will, but they cannot stop anybody else from scoring themselves. The Giants don't have an offense to be spoken of, and their defense isn't that good either. That's why I'm picking the Cowboys to win this one. Expect somewhat of a shootout if the Giants can uphold their end of the bargain. Next, Colts at Browns. Everybody's going to be behind the Browns this next week. They do have a good record, but in my opinion, when the Browns and Baker Mayfield go against a solid, good defense like the Colts are, they struggle. I think Baker Mayfield struggles in this one. I think the Colts win. No problem. Next, Seahawks and Vikings. Guys, believe it or not, the Seahawks have the worst passing defense as far as yards per game given up through the air in the NFL. They're still my favorite to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC, or as far as the NFC goes. I'm picking Seahawks Chiefs. You heard it here. Week 5. I've definitely predicted the Super Bowl members correctly before in sooner weeks, so mark that on your calendars. This is now a new football league where passing defenses and defenses in general don't really matter. All you have to do is give your team more scoring opportunities than the other team. It doesn't matter if you give up 28, 35 points. That's not a big deal. Just make sure that you get a turnover or two, a punt or two, and give your team a couple more options to score than the other team. At the end of the day, whoever has the most points at the end of that quarter wins after 4. Next, we've got, did I say who wins that? The Seahawks will win against the Vikings. Mark it. Next, Broncos at Patriots. Guys, the Pats win that one. No problem. They are going to get Cam Newton, and he will do his thing. The Broncos are a young team. They're developing. They've got missing pieces everywhere. John Elway can't pick a quarterback for the life of him, even though he was a Hall of Fame quarterback. Riddle me that, Batman. We move on. Pats win. Next, go ahead and stop my favorite music of all time. Oh, sorry. Didn't stop the music. I stopped the podcast recording. So I apologize for that. The audio guy's a little rusty. Okay, next, guys, we're going to get into our betting segment. All right, so last week I told you I went 7-3. In week 1, we went 4-2. So we're already off to a good start. I'm going to give you 10 betting options this week. 10. So you have a lot of options, a lot of things to play with. It is interesting in the sense that we've got, in my opinion, a lot of games where you could just pick head-to-head pick'ems, and I think you're very, very safe. For example, last week I gave you a trifecta winner. That means it is 3 players or 3 teams, that are going to win in straight-up matches. You put down 200, you get back 600. That's usually how it goes. Find yourself a good site like Bovada or MyBookie, and they will take that action all day, as it's not supposed to be that easy to pick 3 winning teams. However, we are doing head-to-head pick'em winners all dang day on the Green Zone. So I'm going to tell you right now, the Ravens are going to beat the Bengals. You can bet on that. The Chiefs are going to beat the Raiders. You can bet on that. Then you can take your pick between games like the Steelers versus the Eagles. Bet on the Steelers. They'll win that game. Patriots versus the Broncos. Pats will win that game. Coach Belichick will not lose to the Broncos. So take your pick between any of those 3 teams, and that trifecta will cash in. Next, on our first look bets, that means I went through one time and these jumped out at me. Only have one this week, guys. It is the Colts versus the Browns. It's a straight-up matchup. Oh, let's get our money music going. What are we doing here? It is a straight-up matchup. Vegas has this one as even. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said that there's going to be a little bit of an overreaction. People love to root for the underdogs, guys, and the Browns have been terrible for I don't have to tell you guys, if you're watching a betting football segment, you're a football fan, so you know all about the Browns. They're not that good. They're a Cleveland team, so unless LeBron James comes to town and starts saving them via complaining and getting Draymond Green kicked out or whatever he needs to do, the Browns aren't very good. So what I'm going to tell you right now is that in this even game, a good defense in the Colts, give me the Colts at even all day. Next, we've got second take bets. Like I said, I only had one first look bet. These second take bets, I did go undefeated on last week, so it's not saying that they're not good bets. Just mean I had to go through a couple of times and let it roll around in the old canoodle. Oh boy, that is some sweet, sweet serenity. All right, second take. We've got the Falcons minus 2.5. Guys, I don't like betting on the Falcons. It's a well-known fact on the Green Zone here. They've often made me cry. But it's a little too juicy to pass up. The Panthers aren't good, and without Christian McCaffrey, they're really, really not good. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the Falcons win this one after a disappointing last week Monday night loss to the Green Bay Packers, who look pretty good, by the way. Chiefs minus 11. Yes, the Chiefs versus the Raiders. I went back. I looked at last year's matchups and their divisional matchups last year. They beat them 40 to I think 3 in December, and then they beat them by about 13 to 14 points in September. So obviously, they kind of got the idea of how to beat a Gruden team. As the year went, right? As the later game in December was a huge, massive blowout. We're going to say that trend continues. I understand the Raiders are better this year. I understand that the Raiders are building a little bit of a defense over there. Went from a terrible defense to a mediocre. They do get Henry Ruggs back. He's expected to return, and I do like the young receiver, but it's not enough to beat the Chiefs. Former Super Bowl champs, they defend their title, and they defend it well. They're going to defend it this week. Minus 11 points, I'll swallow that. I'll tell you right now that there are 2 teams in the NFL that make me lots and lots of money, and that is the Seahawks and the Chiefs. Next, we got the Steelers minus 7. Like I said earlier, guys, the Steelers have a solid defense. They're like the Phoenix that is risen once again, right? And Ben Roethlisberger is back. They've got that offense rolling a little bit. Let's not get carried away, but they're doing better, and they're much better than the Eagles. I understand the Eagles won last week, so they're going to be fly, Eagle flying high, but it's not going to be high enough. Steelers win that one, and by a touchdown, I think possibly more. I'll take that. Next, we got the Cowboys minus 8.5. I'm taking a lot of favorites here on the second take, and I understand that. That's because we've got massive mismatches, guys. So we're gonna pray, cross our fingers that there aren't a lot of upsets. But we'll get into that in the third glance. The Cowboys minus 8.5. I think the Cowboys are a little embarrassed at how their defense has played lately. These are NFL players. I understand they are one of the worst defenses in the league through the first 4 weeks of the season, but these are NFL players, and I expect some grit, some guts, a little bit of pressure being put on these guys, as Dallas is it does have a massive fan base. They are watched all across but they have fans everywhere, guys. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on this team to step it up on defense. I think they can do that enough to win against the lowly New York Giants. The Giants' only offensive weapon is Saquon Barkley. Without that, Danny Jones, he doesn't have a lot of options. Evan Ingram hasn't turned out the way everybody's expected or hoped. They've got a couple other guys, but it's nothing special. So give me the Cowboys, minus 8.5. We'll touch on this game again. Next, we got the over in the Dolphins-49ers game, guys. This is a 51 over, which is a 51 point total, which is one of the lower one of the lower point totals this week, which is surprising, right? However, if you take a look at the average points per game so far through this year, it is averaging over 50 points per game in all matchups. So this is definitely a high-scoring year. Like I said, it's a new football league. That's what the NFL stands for, in which defense doesn't really matter, or only matters in the sense that they need to get you more offensive opportunities, and then your offense has to cash in on those opportunities. Pretty simple, as we always say. Defense wins turnover battle, and winner wins the game. So that's a little bit expected. So we're going to say the over at 51 in the Dolphins-Niners matchup. I like Shanahan's scheming, getting Kittle, Debo, and Brandon Ayuk, and even McKinnon involved in this one with Jimmy G. A little bit of the rebirth of the 49ers' actual starting offense. They get their points. They score often against that weak Dolphins D. And then I think the Dolphins put up some points with Fitzmagic working and Devontae Parker working against second, third string practice squad type defensive players that are filling in for the San Francisco 49ers. So give me the over at 41 in that one. Can I say that enough? Moving on, we're going to go to our third glance games. That means I'm just trying to have fun here. We did go 2-1 last week on our third glance games. So let's see what we can do this week. Rams minus 7.5. I did say this game could be closer than expected, so be careful on this one. Wouldn't be surprised if Washington covers that. However, the Rams are the better team. It is only a point or a touchdown. I would feel more comfortable if this was a 7-point spread. Vegas knows how to put these spreads perfect, don't they? So I'm gonna. You know what? This is gonna be an in-game decision. Give me the Reds. Give me the Washington football team plus 7.5. Nope. Yep. That's it. I'm settling. I'm doing it right now. Yes, sir. Crossed it off. Wrote it in. Write that down. Cross the T. Dot the I's. It's done. All right. Next, we've got the Cardinals minus 7.5. Yes, we got burned last week. There were only 3 losses last week in our bettings. 2 of them, one was by the 49er game, the other was by the Cardinal game, so we don't really want to bet on them again. But like I said earlier, it's just too juicy to pass up. We're going to minus the 7.5 points. We're going to take the Cardinals in this one. And then Jaguars +6. Yes, we're going to take the Jaguars +6. That's our other underdog that we like. I think Gardner Minshew and DJ Chark connect once again as that offense continues to grow comfortable. Look at Minshew's on track here to throw for 32 touchdowns this season. That's not bad. Just because your team loses doesn't mean a player does bad. I think the Texans could win this game, but the Jaguars can cover. And then last but not least, we got the over in the Cowboys-Giants game at 53. Neither team has a defense to be spoken of, so 53 points, not too hard to cover. Give me that in that game. All right, guys, moving on. We've got our fantasy, all right, our fantasy football numbers. Last week, I gave you, I think, 3 number ones out of all positions. I gave you 3 players from every position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. In each one of those groups, I gave you a total of 3 number ones, 2 number twos, and a total of 8 out of the however many players. I don't know, 9 or 3, 6, 9, 12. 9 out of the 12 players finished in the top 10. That's what we're shooting for, right? When it comes to wide receivers, if you finish in the top 15, that's good. Your team's probably doing fine. But since we're going for daily fantasy, I'm going to say that we want to finish in the top 10. I still give you 8 out of 12 top 10 finishers. So we're going to try to do it again this week. I've done my research. You guys can trust me on this. First up, quarterbacks. I like Kirk Cousins, guys. I understand he's not typically your monster fantasy quarterback. That means you can get him at a discounted price. Vegas has the Seahawks-Vikings game at the highest point total game of the week. This means there's going to be some scoring, right? And I think it's expected to go on both sides of the ball. As I mentioned before, the Seahawks have the worst passing defense in the league as far as yards per game given up. Cousins knows how to throw the ball, and he knows how to do it against defenses that aren't very good and or are subpar. This is the worst in the NFL, so give me Kirk Cousins. If you can get him for cheaper on daily fantasy, that's awesome, because you're going to pick up some players that you need to spend a little bit more cash on later on. Russell Wilson. Now that's obviously a name that you're going to pick and start every week if you can. If you don't trust Kirk Cousins, go with Russell Wilson. However, you will have to spend a little bit more of that capital than you'd probably like to. He will put up massive points. He is the number 1 projected quarterback this week, going from fantasypros.com. So I would say it's a safe bet. However, you won't have enough to pick other guys that are on this list, so be careful. Next, we've got Gardner Minshew. There's a bargain burner for you. This guy is definitely lower on the daily fantasy capital, and you can get him for a good price. He will throw a couple of touchdowns. He'll put up his numbers as well this week, so I actually trust in Minshew on this one. He will do his thing. Next, we got running backs, guys. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There's one of those big names that you're going to have to spend a little bit more capital on, draft capital on, in order to get this guy on your roster for this week. He has a juicy matchup. He's set up to do a lot against that Raider defense. Give me the guy with 4 freaking names, Clyde Edwards-Helaire there to go off. Next, we got Chris Carson. He's lower down on the list. He's definitely getting more and more known as the year goes on, and well known amongst fantasy managers and players. You guys all know who Chris Carson is, but he will get his this week against that Minnesota Vikings D. And next, we got James Robinson, guys. Remember last week when I told you we did really well on our daily fantasy? James Robinson was one of those very few misses. He did not finish in the top 10. He does this week. He gets back into it. He'll do his thing and redeem himself. That is a kind of flaccid promise. Next, we got wide receivers, guys. Adam Thielen. Yes, I want Adam Thielen, and we're going to stay with that game, and I also want you guys to come back and get DK Metcalf. This is why you want to probably save your money on the wide receiver or on the running backs and the quarterbacks earlier on, right? You come back, you get bigger names like Adam Thielen and DK Metcalf. They're going to put up monster numbers. I think they're going to do great. You can finish it up by throwing your DJ Chark in there at the flex or your second wide receiver if you want to save for a tight end. So, that just to be clear, those 3 are Adam Thielen, DK Metcalf, and DJ Chark. Okay, a lot of D's in there, a lot of D so-and-so's in there. Next, we got tight ends. Obviously, guys, if you can afford Kittle at this point and you've managed your roster right and you can get Kittle on there, get him. He's one of the only offensive weapons on the San Francisco 49ers. They will rely on him heavily. He put up 40 points last week. That's only going to continue. He was targeted 15 times. He had 15 receptions. The guy's a monster. He runs with the ball violently. Defenders don't even want to mess with him. That's why I did this earlier. It's the Kittle way, right? He's going to go ahead and get his you can trust in him. If you cannot afford him, I've given you a couple of cheaper options here in Hunter Henry and Zach Ertz. Yes, Hunter Henry is a guy that I've mentioned before. He's been healthy this entire year. He is a young, more athletic tight end. They do know how to use him there with the Chargers. He should be able to do his thing. And Zach Ertz, he's stayed healthy. You guys know who he is. He's a little bit long in the tooth at this point, but he's really the only reliable receiving option in Philadelphia. So go ahead and give me Zach Ertz. And then last but not least, guys, we've got Travis Kelce. Kelce, once again, one of the best tight ends in the game. You know him. You've heard of him, obviously. Otherwise, you're crazy. He's going to do great. He's going to do fine. But if you can't afford him, then go with one of those other guys I mentioned. That does it, guys. That is it. Done. Finito. Vamonos. Get the f*** out. Next, we've got our segment of accountability, which we have not done so far this year. So we're just going to review how we did last week. And I'm going to hold myself accountable like I always do here for you guys. So, except for last week. Yeah, I did not. We already mentioned that. So, we've got, for our week 4 action, we went 7-3 in the bets. That's good. Ding, ding, ding. We went 11-3 in our pick'ems. That's good. Ding, ding, ding. And for fantasy, I gave you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 out of 13 options, top 10 finishers. That includes 3 number ones. I told you Dak Prescott was going to do his thing. I told you OBJ was going to do his thing. And I told you George Kittle was going to do his thing. And that includes 2 number 2s, Dalvin Cook and Amari Cooper, and 2 number 3s in Aaron Rodgers and Mark Andrews. So, you're welcome. You can thank me later. Or via gift, Venmo me some money. That's fine. I don't care. And that does it here, guys. Let's just get ourselves back in that green zone to make that green. Hope you have good NFL action this next week. And tell your friends, right? Because we're trying to make that money. I mean, you don't want to be the only rich person, or do you, selfish bastard? Bye, guys. Love you.